Hello, my name is Connie Durham, and today I'm going to share with you my 7th lesson from the book, John Maxwell's book, Thinking for a Change. So often in this world today, we just are so busy. We go from one thing to the next, never stopping to think or to plan. What if you didn't plan your vacation? What kind of vacation would that be? More people put time into planning their vacation than they put into planning their life. Planning for success, planning what they want their family to look like, planning what they want whatever to look like. You get the point? Thinking for a change. Well, today we're talking about creative thinking. How long has it been since you sat down and used some creative thinking? What would you need to think creatively about? Well, do you remember when you were a kid and possibly on a rainy day you had nothing to do and your mom goes, here, she gives you a bunch of blankets and quilts. You pull them all out, you unfold them, you start stretching them across, and you make a floor of a fort or a playhouse. You make the floor and then you make some walls. You try to figure out where you can hang those quilts and blankets. And then once you've done it, you spend hours playing in that fort or in that house that you have created. Do you remember that? Do you remember taking drawings, a piece of white paper, and you just draw from nothing and create? Maybe you created a storybook and you created pictures and words and wrote a story. Well, being creative is not just for kids. It's not just for kids. I would love to hear some ways that you were creative when you were a kid in the comments. I would love to hear about that. So today what we're going to look at is we're going to learn to think, and then to create, and then to collect those ideas. Maybe you put them in a folder in your computer, maybe you write down in a journal or a book, and then really take time to think about those ideas, correct them, make them better. Have you ever had a time where you had a great idea and you wrote it down, and then you came back in a week and you looked at it and you're like, what was I thinking? This doesn't even make any sense. So it's important to take time to correct it, tweak it and make it better. And then to connect that idea where it can make a difference for you and your life. Author Skip Ross of the book, Say Yes to Your Potential, writes that most kids, when they're 5 years old, have about 90% creativity. When they were given a survey, they came up 90% on creativity. And you kind of expect that with kids, right? But by the time they were 7 years old, they were down to 10% creativity. What's happening here, right? And this book that I was reading was from the 1990s. So I can only imagine today when kids are on the computer or an iPhone playing or a game system of some sort, and they're not using their creative abilities. And guess what? By the time people were grown, their creativity level was 2%. Now I teach on personality styles, and I would say that some personality styles are more creative by all means than others. And if you stop to think of the ways, like fashion, cooking ideas, artists, dancers, then you're going to find probably those people are more than 2% creative. But why do the rest of us have to be non-creative? It is to practice something to grow something. So you have to practice it to grow it. We live in a negative world these days, and people are put down for a lot of different things they do. Let's think about kids. When you're a kid, you get don't do this and don't do that. What if we told kids what we wanted them to do instead of what we didn't want? What if we ourselves focused on what we want to do and what we want to get and what we want to be, rather than what we're afraid we might be, right? So think of the kids, with that, and then how that translates right into adults. For instance, I knew a young child, I taught voice lessons, and I knew a young child who appeared, I've known several actually, that appeared not to be able to sing. And so often when you're a kid, you're told, oh my gosh, you cannot sing. There's even stars who are major vocal stars that were told they couldn't sing when they were a kid. Sometimes, they just haven't been trained or they haven't listened to the right things. But here's what I found. On this child, whenever she started to listen to the notes, and I specifically worked with her on what I wanted her to do, little by little, she could hear those notes. And then she could sing very beautifully. But what if she never had that opportunity for just a little bit of voice lessons? She would have been told, oh goodness, you can't sing. And then she would have accepted that and taken it for truth and never tried. Where could you apply that in your life today? Something you were told that you couldn't do, and then you simply never tried. So let's look at some things about creative thinkers. First of all, creative thinkers are dreamers. Because where does creativity start? In our dreams and our thoughts as we create things. There's songwriters. Those are great examples of dreamers and creators. Creative thinkers add value to others. Why? Because they can find solutions. They listen, they think, they create, and they find solutions. They take ideas and they collaborate those ideas with others. When you take an idea, a creative idea, and you collaborate with other people, everyone adds their 2 cents to that idea and it becomes a better idea. They explore options and different directions. They learn to see things from both sides and in the middle. And that helps to create solutions. They don't fear failure because so often failure keeps us from trying at all, right? Creative thinking adds value to everything. It helps you learn and it challenges the status quo, because quite often we are told this is how it is, this is the square you're supposed to dance in, and then we're supposed to stay right inside that square. I was always a person who said, why? And that comes to the thing of asking questions, right? Why do we do it this way? And you can do that with anything, and then take some notes and write those things down. Now, some creative killers are, you may recognize some of these from life. I'm not a creative person. And once you tell yourself something enough times, you truly believe it to be true. Or if somebody else says something to you enough times, like, you're no good, you're never going to make anything from your life. Or, you can't do that. What makes you think you could do that? We hear these kind of things. The world is a negative world. Creativity killers are sometimes following the rules. Now, there are some rules, laws, things that keep all us contained, keep life good. We have to follow those. But sometimes there's rules that don't have to be followed. Who made the rules? Why do we follow them? What good are they? Yes, I would ask those things. Creativity killers are not asking questions. And there's a lot of people who have questions in their mind, but they just won't step out and ask the question. Be a question asker. They're afraid to be different. Today's times, people want to fit in the box. They're afraid to be different. They want to buy the Coach purse, or they want to buy the most popular car. They want to travel the world or go on trips. They want to do the same things that everybody else does, and they're afraid to be different. They think there's only one way to do things. Oh my goodness, I love to find all the different ways that you can do things. I love to hear people tell me the way they do something. I'm like, wow, I never thought of that before. Creative thinking. Don't be afraid to be foolish. Often we don't step out and we're afraid because we don't want to look stupid or foolish. We're afraid of our image. Spoiling our image. What would people think, right? Be practical. We think we need to be serious all the time. And so often somebody has said, it can't be done. And if we allow ourselves to live in that world, we'll never try and we'll never step forward. Literally, you have to wake up in the morning, brush yourself off, sometimes figure out how to build a good attitude. Because if you don't have great energy and take care of yourself, then you don't have the energy to be creative. And if you're around a lot of negative people, you don't have the energy to be creative, because negative people steal your joy and they steal your energy. All right, so let's look at, as we finish, how do we stimulate creativity? Asking questions. Asking questions is how you find answers, right? So ask questions. And as the title of this message is, taking time to think. People are followers and they don't take time to think for themselves, think what is best for them, while still being considerate of other people, of course, but what is best for them. Take time to think. Spend time with creative people. Don't you enjoy being around people who enjoy life and have a good time? So take time to be around people. Whatever your business is, look for the people that can be a mentor for you. Look for people that are where you want to be and spend time with them. Look to see what they do. And, why it's always been done this way. We don't have to embrace that if we are a creative thinker. We think of how else can it be done? Is there a better way to do this? And when something's going on, we think, what is the root of the problem? So often what we see on the surface is just the surface. What's the root of the problem? And you've got to creatively be able to talk about the root of the problem, because you have to recognize the problem so that you can solve that problem and find solutions to that problem. Always think about what's the opposite. And I call that thinking on the other side. So what's the opposite? If this is affecting me in one way, how's it affecting the person over there on the other side? So I always think that way. How's it affecting me? And this is me. Then I get myself out of the way and I think, how's it affecting that person? And sometimes, why are they acting that way? And that helps me find solutions or not be upset with them because there's something else, there's another root to a problem, and that's why someone's acting that way. So it helps in relationships to be creative. What if we don't do this at all? Sometimes we get stuck in a decision and we're back and forth and back and forth. It's like, what if we don't do this at all? What would happen? Does it really matter? And what's the most effective way? That's one of my favorites. I like to take something and really think about it. And what's the most effective way to do that? Time effective, logical. What's the most effective way? So today I encourage you to take time and dream. Take time to plan your life. Take time to be creative and think about, what would I like? I remember a day a long, long time ago whenever I began a direct sales business, and I had forgotten how to dream. I didn't have a lot of money. I had a young family, and I forgot how to dream. And so this company, what they did to start with, they started to help you learn to dream so that you could think and create ideas of having more or doing more or being something you've not been before. So here's how we'll finish this. I want you to take time to think. You may have to write it on your calendar. And then create. And as you create, you might consider writing those ideas down. And if it's a business or something that you need to keep those ideas on, maybe collect those in a folder on your computer or in a journal. And then later go back to those ideas where you're being creative and correct them, add to them, think again, add some solutions, add to those. And then once they're perfect and your plan, and you've created a perfect plan, it might be a vacation, you've created a perfect plan, then connect that plan. It might be to connect with people. It might be to reconnect with family. It might be to connect a new business that you've been working on. What do you want to connect? What do you want to create? And how can you use your creative thinking today? My name is Connie Durham with Connie's Clever Concepts, and that's a .com. If you want to come see more of my blogs, and I also have online classes for communicating. Thank you for listening today, and have an awesome day.